Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am here with my friend Sean Inglesby of Trail Forged, and I want to get into what it's like to have an American-owned business that actually brings manufacturing stateside, which is so rare these days. So, Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided to start your own business, especially manufacturing stateside.
I mean, that's kind of a crazy story. I'm actually a German immigrant. Came over when I was very young, and I'm terrible. I'm a crap employee, terrible employee.
Me
Um,
too.
I've been in and out of a lot of jobs when I was younger. I knew at a really young age that I needed to do something for myself. I think I started my first LLC when I was like 16.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've done everything. I've done
Now, were your parents entrepreneurs, or you just were a shit employee and you're like, hey, this ain't gonna work?
a bit of both.
Okay.
So my dad runs his own business. He's been doing that now for over 20 years. Um, but kind of a very, very self-employed, kind of solo consultant type of a job.
Okay.
And I've seen him, bust his ass nights, weekends, days, 20 days in a row, you name it. Um, and I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different and maybe find something that would allow me to kind of scale it into big business eventually. Funny story is I had a screen printing business. So I had a full professional screen printing everything, and Jeeps were my hobby. Um, and I was building one in my garage, and I was having a hell of a time finding quality parts. There's a lot of really cheap import crap nowadays. A lot of stuff just isn't built to the standards that I have. Having both a Army Special Operations and an engineering background,
Thank
I
you for your
finish stuff
service.
and I know how to build stuff. So my standards are really high, and I could not find the parts that I wanted to the quality that I wanted. And I'm over here screen printing shirts and doing that, and I'm like, this is kind of fun-ish, but I'm not passionate about it.
Yeah.
So I ended up selling everything, sold all my equipment, you name it, and started making parts in my garage. I had a welder already. I had a little bit of equipment. I invested what I made out of selling my screen printing equipment into, some shop stuff. And I started having, big rigs deliver thousands of pounds of tube to my residential house. And, just that's how I started.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and it grew really rapidly from there. And, 6 years later, it's
There you go.
wild.
So, how long did you operate out of your garage?
We were in there for almost a year. I want to say probably within 6 months, I knew I needed to get out of there and get into something
Okay.
bigger. Started looking. I think about 8 months in, we signed a lease for it's like a 3,000 square foot shop space. And then we moved in there, and we didn't have a lot of budget. So we did a lot of digging to find one that was kind of rougher and it needed some work.
Hmm.
And we put all the sweat equity into rebuilding this shop space to suit our needs because it fit our budget at the time. And yeah, I want to say it was like 10 months in.
Got it. You guys still there, or you moved to a much bigger facility?
No, that's several iterations ago. That's the company originally started in Santa Rosa, California, where I was living at the time. And then we moved into a shop space that was local. And then year and a half ish later, we moved into a different shop space. And then not quite 2 years ago, we packed everything up, shipped the whole lot to Virginia, where we're at now. And now we're in a 21,500 square foot warehouse building.
Wow.
So
There you go. Congrats. It's a hell of a journey.
yeah, the cross country move was very painful and expensive, and it was a big lesson. But we 10x'd our space, and 10x or more the capacity for us to grow and expand and whatnot here. So
Very cool. Now, looking back, because I did a cross country, well, not cross country. Let's go north to south, right? I did New York to Florida. I said to everybody that would listen, I'll never do that again. I'll sell all my stuff and just buy new. It doesn't work the same with the business.
I mean, yeah. So I bought a 24-foot box truck
Okay.
in California, and I already had a 7500, like a big flat deck truck.
Okay.
And between the two of those and a trailer, we packed everything
Okay.
in my household and everything in my shop. Overloaded the hell out of both of the trucks. I did end up purging a lot of stuff, as in most of my household. I got rid of pretty much anything personal,
Hmm.
and I kept all my business stuff because I'm like,
Yeah.
clothes are clothes, furniture is furniture, but all of the manufacturing equipment I've built up over the years, like I need to bring that with me.
Got it.
Um, and that was a whole snafu because we had one truck breakdown in Wyoming for 3 weeks, and it just everything went wrong. And then we got here, and then I had to go back halfway across the country to figure out some stuff, and there was no airport there, so we ended up like hitchhiking, and it's a wild story, and it was extremely expensive. And looking back at it, I'm like, ugh. And now we're in a bigger building with a lot more stuff and more equipment and more employees and more inventory, and so ouch.
I got it. That's funny. And so you're manufacturing. Are you direct to consumer, direct to shops, or wholesale? Take
We're
us through that.
98% direct to consumer.
Okay.
So most of it is through our website. Last fall, we did open a full service shop in the building now that we have enough space here.
Hmm.
So we do service repairs, install our own product, all that kind of stuff. And we sell some of our product through there as well. But, still 80% or more of it is online to consumers. And we have customers. I mean, name a country and we've probably sent stuff there.
Okay.
So we've got packages going to everywhere.
That's cool. So what were some of the, and I want to kind of ask this in phases, right?
Mhm.
When you were starting up, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Trying to figure out, not only trying to figure out how to do things, but the step in front of how to do things are, what all do we need to do? So if you've never run a business before, then maybe you don't know that you need to track all your expenses, and you don't know that you need to classify things, and you don't know that you need to, there's all of these different things that you learn because, oh shit, we haven't been doing XYZ and we should have. And so, I mean, really, it was a super steep learning curve. And at the same time, we're trying to develop products, like actually engineer suspension components,
Mm-hmm.
test them to make sure that they're good enough,
Mm-hmm.
and then figure out, okay, now we have to figure out how to package this, how to ship this, how to support it after the fact. How do we get new customer base? How do we, build a website and social media presence and, bookkeeping and
All the
just
fun stuff.
everything. So I learned really quick, especially because, when you're a brand new business, you don't have money to hire 5-10
No.
employees. So it's like, I'm the guy. I'm the guy who does everything.
Yeah.
So I have to learn how to do absolutely every single step in my business.
Yeah.
And I have to get proficient enough at it and efficient enough at it that we can grow doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you didn't take on any partners? This was you solo?
Initially, I had somebody who was helping me out, and that worked out for a little bit. And then I ended up running it solo for quite a while. I had, part-time employees here and there who would help me do stuff. We got super busy, and that kind of stuff. And then trying to do anything in California is extraordinarily expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really hard to grow. It was really hard to, hire full-time employees and the wages and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of one part of the move was cost of living and everything in Virginia, and taxes and everything is significantly lower.
Yeah.
So now I'm actually able to bring on full-time employees and, do that kind of stuff and start farming out various things to take it off of my plate.
Got it. How many employees do you have today?
I've got 2 full-time employees here with me right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're on a trajectory where that's probably going to be 5 or 6 by the end of this year.
Awesome. That is awesome. And so what are some of the bigger challenges that you have today
It's kind of it's very similar challenges. They're just on a bigger scale.
Yep.
So
they cost more.
Yeah. All the problems that I had on day one are the same. They're just bigger. They're just more expensive.
Another 0 or 2.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. Like, hey, I have to order inventory, but now I need to order, this one order is 20 grand, whereas on day one it was like $500.
Yep.
So that's a big challenge. Now we're adding challenges of I need to hire people, and I need to hire people that are competent and trustworthy and get them trained up without it being a huge sap on my time, because I don't have enough free time to go through 5, 10, 15 employees that are all terrible before I find that one good one.
Yep.
Because we are still a very small crew, and I've spent several years really dialing in systems within the business. A lot of people that wouldn't believe we're 3 people. Like the output that we send out the door, people would assume we're, 20 people under this roof. And it's just because we're enormously efficient, and everybody here knows their job, and everybody here has 2, 3, 4, 5 different jobs.
Yep.
So I'd say the big challenge now is starting to farm out more things off of my plate, because if I spend an 8-hour day in the warehouse packing and filling orders, that's 8 hours that I'm not on socials, or I'm not building the business, or I'm not developing new product, or I'm not working on the business, I'm working in the business. And doing that, you don't grow doing that. You hit that cap of like, this is as much as I can do, and you got to get past that point if you want to expand.
Yeah. Wise Hire. Check out Wise Hire. It's a lifesaver. And
Yeah.
$200 a month, cut down all of your the time it takes to hire people and to go through resumes.
Right.
It's a game changer. I swear by it.
Taking a note here.
I can send you a link for it if you need it. It'll be easier.
So my full-time welder fabricator, he was a customer first.
Oh, that's awesome.
When I was still in California, he reached out to me and said, hey, can I ask you some questions? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What's up? And very young kid at the time. He was 18, 19. And he's like, I just started welding in school. I really like it. I like automotive stuff. I like Jeep stuff. Like, how would you suggest I get a job in the industry, in off-road or racing or automotive, or like, how would I do that? And I'm like, oh, it's a bummer you're not, West Coast. I'd hire you. I need help. And we ended up putting him on a plane and flying him to California. And he did sort of an apprenticeship with me for a few weeks, and did really well. So less than a year later, probably 6-8 months later, when the move out here started to become a reality, I reached out to him because he lives 4 hours south of here.
Yep.
And I said, hey, what about coming up and working for me full time?
Yeah.
And so that ended up, becoming a reality. And now it's been almost 2 years that he's been working for me.
That's awesome.
And my mechanic, again, was a buddy from California who used to work on my stuff out there. And same sort of deal. I was out here. We were on the phone joking back and forth about like, hey, what if I come and run an auto shop for you? And 6 months later, he's moved his family out here and all that stuff. And,
Nice.
So the employees that I have, they come to me in a very weird roundabout way, but like they're both extraordinarily solid. If I'm like, XYZ, we need to go way outside your normal job description to get stuff done, they jump in, no problem. They're absolutely willing. Like they understand, very small shop like we are, it's sink or float for all of us.
Yep.
So, no, and they're amazing and we get shit done. So I have a very high expectation for employees, maybe a little bit too high for new hires because of the crew that we have already.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you have that culture, it's very easy to get more people into it one by one and see if they catch it up. So that's a great job, man. So what are some of the things that you do that kind of differentiate from other people that manufacture, off-road parts, Jeep parts? Like tell us about like your process and what separates you.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of big names. There's a lot of import brands that just have stuff made en masse and containered over here. There's a handful of really big industry names that a lot of people know that anybody who's hands-on all the time knows is just utter crap. And me, I have several odd backgrounds. I've been in motorsports for a very long time, both dirt and on road courses and whatnot. I also have an engineering background. I did a few years in school, studied engineering, and then my time in the military. Like, my standards and the way I look at things are really, really high. So when I look at these subpar parts, I'm like, I don't want to run that on my vehicle. I definitely don't want to make that and sell that to people. So initially it started out as, I want to make stuff for me as good as I possibly can. And as soon as that grew into, other people want that same stuff, my thought process behind it was, I don't want to dumb down the product. I don't want to lower the quality just now because I'm selling it to other people. Mm-hmm. If I can't design and make the best version of something, I don't want to make it, right? If there's 5 of product X on the market, I'm not going to copy it and put a 6th out there.
Yeah,
I want to improve upon it. And that's kind of been the way that we've operated since day one. And it also means we aren't growing as theoretically fast as we could. If we just put a bunch of shit out there, we could make a ton of revenue.
Yep.
But that's not who we are. Like, when we show up to something, when we build a vehicle, when we make anything, a lot of our parts have a lifetime warranty. If you ever break it, we replace it for free, because we believe in that product, so strongly. And that slows down our growth process, and it slows down our product development and testing process. But it also means that everything that we've done behind us is absolutely rock solid.
How many SKUs do you have?
Stuff that we make in-house is probably almost 100.
Okay.
Nearing that.
Nice.
And that's a lot for one fabricator. And yeah. So it's like, today you're making 20 of this, 10 of this, 30 of this, and 4 of those.
Got it. How many do you want to get to? I mean, what's the ultimate end goal here?
I mean, the ultimate end goal is to play with the big dogs. To become a nationally and internationally recognized brand, to become one of the top brands that the really good small shops recommend to their customers as, like, if you want the best, go to Trail Forged and get their parts. And to kind of compartmentalize to the point where, I would love to see our manufacturing department grow significantly. I would love to see our auto shop grow significantly, and possibly even open locations, various different places across the country that carry that really high standard of service that, that we're building and customers are coming to expect from us.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about marketing. Like, what do you guys do on that front?
First 5 years, I winged it. So initially it was, I don't think I did paid ads for quite a few years. Initially it was all social media presence.
Okay.
Facebook is a really big one. Back in the day, all the car dudes were on forums, and forums are kind of dead. They're not a lot of stuff going on there. Everybody moved onto social platforms. Mm-hmm. And I know, coming from I wrench on my own cars in my garage kind of position, and if I ask questions, like, I appreciate good help. Mm-hmm. I approach that from the opposite perspective, and I go into Jeep groups and I just help people. Somebody has a question, I give them an answer. Somebody's looking for some input, I give them an answer. And because of my expertise and knowledge, it's not like I'm throwing spaghetti at the ceiling, like I'm guessing I'm a YouTube mechanic. I'm going to give you some really high quality information. Yeah. And 99% of the time it comes with no ask. I'm not saying, hey, go buy my stuff, or here's my website, or, like, most of the time I don't do that.
Yep.
And I did that for so many years early on in the business that I think it built a really high level of trust. And a lot of people all of a sudden, without me having to say it, they're like, oh, he runs Trailforge.
Yep.
If you want good shit, go look at his stuff. And I didn't have to say that.
Yeah.
And it built a lot of customer loyalty. And that carried us for quite a few years until it got to the part where it's like, okay, we want to break into new markets. We want to be more aggressive. We want to grow faster. And that'll take you so far. And I haven't stopped doing that, but now we have to add, new layers. So, last fall we started working with a marketing agency doing paid ads and doing, Google stuff and website stuff, so that we can be more aggressive with growth and expansion and new markets and reaching new segments that we wouldn't normally through that like social Facebook interaction.
Got it. Very cool. We, I went through a lot of different marketing agencies. I don't think people realize how hard it is to find the right one.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on what you're having marketed, right? So with lending, there's a lot of things that you can and can't target. It's not like it was a couple of years ago where you can specifically target certain things. Retail products, I feel like it is a little bit more amicable, a little bit easier, because, hey, this guy has a Jeep, likes trucks, like it's off-roading, hit send.
Right.
That's really cool. So talk to me, have you implemented core values in your business?
Yes and no. So It's one of those punch list items that I need to nail down, basically summarize into like, these are like this word, this word, this word. I would say that the way I operate is kind of a guiding morality, if you will. So when I interact with customers, when we do our meetings with my crew, that kind of stuff, I have a very defined way I look at things and way I handle things and way I help customers and whatnot, that my guys have taken on.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a note in my punch list of, like summarize my core values and then get a sign made for the wall.
There you go.
But yeah.
All right. Awesome. And do you do any sponsorships? Like, I know there's a huge, like you said, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So do you go to races to get word out? How much do you do in terms of like local presence? Walk us through that.
Yeah. Shows are very important.
Okay.
And there's kind of two different
like trade shows?
Sort of. There's several different types of shows.
Okay.
So you have like trade shows that are at an expo center, like an off-road expo, and it's in a convention hall on concrete, right? And it's like a product showcase. So there's those type of shows. And then you have the like Jeep truck shows where people want to show their fancy wash blingy stuff. And then you have the in the dirt, like out in the woods event type thing. And in our industry, it really depends on the market you're chasing. Okay. So the market segment that we're going after are the people who really, really use their vehicles. Not, I bought my Jeep, I'm going to put a bunch of blinky lights on it and drive it in a parade. Like, that's not really who we're going after. So the hands-on shows, the events that are at trails or in the woods or at an off-road race, that kind of stuff, that's a lot more up our alley. Because when we build, shop rigs and we take a rig that we built out somewhere, it's kind of crazy. And we want to show what it can do because we built it to function.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that sets us apart, because there are companies that sort of think like we do. And there are companies that do the other thing where it's more about looks and flashiness and that kind of stuff, rather than I want to actually go out and beat on shit.
Yep. Rather than performance and durability.
Yeah.
Yep, I got it. Have you guys, you've entered cars? Have you won a race? Tell us about that.
we haven't done any off-road races with our own vehicles. I have a lot of friends that do off-road races, and we've done a lot of supporting for them. So, like, the biggest off-road race in the U.S. nowadays is called King of the Hammers. It's in the desert of Southern California every spring, and we've got some really good friends that go and race that every year. And so what I would do is I would bring my shop guys and friends and everybody, and we would go down and run the pit crew for them.
Oh, that's cool.
So, you know, we're bringing the tires and the gas and the, you know, mechanics and wrenching on it. And a lot of these off-road races are way out in the desert. So, like, your remote pit stop is 30 miles out across this desert terrain, and you got to get there fast. Like, before the race rig gets there, you got to get out there. So we have this ridiculous Jeep we built that can do 80, 90 miles an hour across, you know, trophy truck type terrain.
Oh, really?
That is a chase rig. We throw spare tires and gas and all that stuff in it and just go hauling balls across the desert with this thing.
That's got to be a blast.
It's so much fun.
So tell us some crazy Jeep stories. It doesn't have to relate to your business, but give us some crazy Jeep stories. She's like, here, these get pretty crazy.
I mean, there's a lot of crazy off-road stuff. If you do get into the off-road racing, like the Ultra 4 King of the Hammer series, like, people are going to flip their shit and roll and break entire corners off their vehicle. And last year there were like the side-by-sides, the little UTVs. They were helicoptering them out of these messed up canyons in the desert because they got so wadded up they couldn't move them anymore.
Oh, really?
So they go out with helicopters, just pick it up and fly it, you know, 10 miles over.
That's crazy.
I mean, I've been on the Rubicon Trail in California quite a few times, and that's remote and rugged enough that if somebody gets injured seriously, really the only way to get to them is you call a chopper in.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've been on the ground several times when that happens. I've been, you know, nearby for some fatalities. Supported some choppers coming in and landing for various injuries, a random drug overdose in the middle of the woods once.
Yep.
And it really depends on the type of people you hang out with. There's the crazy party, you know, get drunk and wreck their shit kind of people. There's the kind of more slow, technical, proper, bring all the expensive gear kind of people. There's sort of different, there's different cliques, if you will, and they all approach the industry differently. And that brings its own challenges depending on sort of who you're hanging out with.
Got it. So tell us, imagine going back in time. What are some things, because not a lot of people don't realize how much manufacturing is not in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that we absolutely have to fix, like, yesterday.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen overnight. So give us some of your best tips, right, and on if somebody wanted to start manufacturing in the U.S.
Yeah. Specialize early on. And what I mean by that is when it comes to off-road parts, like the stuff that we build, I divide our product line into two halves. Things that we make out of steel tube, like round or square, and things that we make out of steel plate. Okay. Plate stuff being like bumpers, tube stuff being like suspension components.
Okay.
The tools and equipment used to make them, shy of like a welder, all the tools used to bend them and form them and shape them and do all that stuff are completely different.
Okay.
And they're both outrageously expensive.
I know. That's
so
fine.
Unless you have a gigantic financial backer who's like, don't make loan payments for 10 years and it's no interest, you can't walk in and say, I'm going to do everything all on day one. Because you could invest $200,000-$300,000 in plate equipment, $200,000-$300,000 in tube equipment, and those are not high numbers. They go way up from there. And if you're not maximizing that stuff, you're going to go in the hole really fast. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I learned via making a big mistake, it's usually a great way to learn, is fairly early on in the business, we were booming, and I got a hold of this big loan, and I was like, ooh, money, money, money. So I'm just going to throw it everywhere, right? So we were developing a lot of tube product and putting a lot of money in there and buying a lot of inventory and that kind of stuff. Buying in bulk is a great way to make more profit margin on each part. And I knew that really early on. So I buy everything in bulk. But then I invested $300,000 in equipment to make plate parts. One of them was 200 grand, just one piece of equipment. One CNC press brake I bought brand new with all the tooling was $200K. I was making over $3,000 a month monthly payments on this thing.
Yep.
And we turned that piece of equipment on and used it maybe 4 to 6 hours a week. Yes. That, you see, you understand.
Yeah.
Because we're not using that piece of equipment, we're not making enough revenue off of it to pay for itself.
Yep.
And that was that was a year and a half into business when I bought all this stuff. And that was a hard, expensive lesson of, hey, if you're going to invest all of this money in a piece of equipment, you need to make sure that that equipment is going to stay busy.
Dude,
because if it stays busy, it's going to make you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't stay busy, it's going to cost you a ton of money. And I ended up having to get out of both of those loans and get rid of that equipment. Just because it wasn't paying for itself.
Yeah.
And I learned then and there real quick that, you know, even smaller investments, it doesn't need to be 200,000. It can be 20 grand. It can be 10 grand. If you're going to put cash into something, you have to know what it's for, and you have to make sure that asset is going to be utilized.
Yeah.
Because that's the difference between good debt and bad debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bad debt, it's just sitting there costing me money and I'm paying interest and loans and all this, and it's not making me any money. The good debt being I'm making more money than I am paying interest and the loan payments on it.
Mm-hmm.
And once I learned that lesson, now I look at things drastically different. You know, we're looking at investing in a couple more pieces of equipment over the next 6 to 12 months. And I have a big spreadsheet that says we buy all of these things and it cost us this much money. And if we're going to buy a piece of equipment to make that here, this is how much it saves us.
Yep.
So now I know exactly, based on how much sales we're doing, how many dollars a month buying that piece of equipment will save us. And now I can very easily look at it and say, we're not quite ready to make that purchase. We're getting closer. Yes, we're there.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like being educated about like expensive stuff, being really, really educated on that buying decision is absolutely critical.
That's one of the things I ask everybody at work. I help. How much is the equipment? How much is it going to bring on a monthly basis? Because if the payment for the equipment finance we get you is higher than what revenue is coming in, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. Okay? You got to make sure you're getting a return on investment and an increase in cash flow. If those two things don't check out, you shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Bottom line, that was awesome. That was awesome. I felt like I was listening to myself. Cool, man. So let me ask you something. If somebody wanted to work with you, had some questions, or wanted to just grab some parts from you, what is the best? How can they reach you? What's the best way?
Trailforge.com.
That was simple. Sean, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you. Yeah. You crushed it. It was exceeded expectations, and the expectations were high, my friend.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. And guys, reach out to Sean. I mean, there's so many people that I would love more people to have manufacturing businesses in the United States. We desperately need it. So if you have any type of idea, he's the guy that's going to help you, walk you through it. And, you know, just listening to what he's saying as someone that has a lot of experience helping manufacturing companies, this guy knows his stuff. All right. Thanks, guys. And I will catch you on the next one.